an illustration showing Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, discussed in Chapter 3. Bottom. Ancient Persian art showing the passing of power from one ruler to another. Introduction to the Canterbury Tales. Geoffrey Chaucer was born in London, England, in either 1342 or 1343 CE. He was the son of a wealthy wine merchant and lived a privileged life. Chaucer was well educated. He could read and write, and he spoke Latin, French, and a form of English we now call Middle English. He was a skilled horseman and knew how to use a sword. As a teenager, he served as a page in a royal household. Chaucer had many rich and influential friends. As one example, his wife was a lady-in-waiting in the queen's household. He was well-traveled. He fought in the 100 Years' War and was captured by the French. He lived through the years when the plague spread throughout Europe. Chaucer had several important jobs, including at one point being in charge of the Tower of London. However, people tend to think of him first as having been an extraordinarily talented poet. During Chaucer's life, people in England spoke several languages and many dialects. Chaucer chose to write in what we now call Middle English, but most people did not read his work. There are a number of reasons why most people did not read what Chaucer wrote. One reason is that most people could not read. Another reason people did not read what Chaucer wrote is that books were rare, hand-scribed luxury items. Instead, people listened to this poetry read aloud and they came to like it. The Canterbury Tales was Chaucer's last work. In this work, a number of pilgrims traveled together from London to the Holy Shrine of Thomas Becket in Canterbury. Each pilgrim agrees to tell 2 tales on the way to the Canterbury and 2 on the way back to London. Chaucer introduces 29 pilgrims. The characters themselves are from every social class. Many of the tales are humorous, and they provide wonderful insight into life in the Middle Ages. The following translated excerpt is part of the introduction to the Canterbury Tales. The introduction is called the prologue. In the prologue, Chaucer introduces the characters who will tell their tales. In this excerpt, you will discover how the journey began. You will also meet a knight, a squire, and a yeoman, or farmer. Alongside this translation, you will also be able to view the original Middle English text. The English language has changed quite a lot since Chaucer's time. However, it is still possible to read and understand many Middle English words. The Canterbury Tales was so popular that several copies were written, some of which survived into the mid-1400s. Likely in 1476 CE, the first English printer, William Carton, produced one of the first books ever printed in the English language, the Canterbury Tales. The stories were very popular at the time. To gain the right feeling for the Canterbury Tales, it is important to understand that Chaucer read his poetry aloud. Therefore, it is helpful to hear his work. As you read try to hear the words in your head, or better still, read them aloud. To this day, the Canterbury Tales is regarded as one of the greatest works of English literature. When April comes again with his sweet showers, that pierce the drought of March down to the root, and bathe each vein with potent liquid that has power to make the flowers bud and grow. When Zephyrus also, god of winds, inspires with his sweet breath the tender buds in every meadow, grove, and wood. And when the sun has ran his halfway course across the constellation of the Ram, and when the little birds make melody that sleep the whole night through with open eyes, so strong does nature prick them in their hearts, then people long to go on pilgrimages, to see strange shores and distant foreign shrines, and especially from every English shire to Canterbury they go, where they will seek the holy, blissful martyr who had helped, when they were feeling sick, to make them well. Enrichment. The Canterbury Tales, Selection 2. A knight there was, and that was a worthy man, who, since he first rode out, loved chivalry and truth and honor, largesse and courtesy. And valiant was he in his sovereign's war, in which no other man had voyaged farther, whether in Christian or in heathen lands, and he was honored for his worthiness. He helped when Alexandria was won. He sat in Prussia at the table's head, above all knights from nations everywhere. He fought in Lithuania and Rus more off than any Christians of his rank.